the face, the star of stars, Dakota Ditcheva right here in Chicago.
Yeah, did want a few more rounds. I had
Get stronger as the rounds go on, and if she hurts you, she's not going to let you go.
I can put on a good show for them.
The lights of the arena dimmed to a low red glow, and for a moment, the crowd forgot to breathe. All around, Brazilian flags waved like jungle leaves caught in a silent storm. For more than a decade, the women's divisions of mixed martial arts had belonged to Brazil. Amanda Nunes, Chris Cyborg, Jessica Andrade, Tyla Santos, names spoken with reverence and a touch of fear. Their dominance felt inevitable, as if the sport itself had been claimed by the tropics.
One kick two calf kicks. That's 2 calf kicks. Wow. Ugly welt there for Lisa.
No nation matched their ferocity. No outsider dared imagine breaking their rule. Then a shadow stepped from across the Atlantic. Tall, wiry, ice-calm, Dakota Ditcheva looked nothing like the thunderous champions of Brazil. She was British by birth, Bulgarian by blood, a Muay Thai prodigy turned MMA enigma, and in barely 3 years, she dismantled the myth of Brazilian invincibility, one fight at a time, until even the proudest veterans whispered her name with caution. The night that sealed her legend unfolded in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. Across from her stood Tyla Santos, a muscular grappler who had once come seconds from submitting Valentina Shevchenko for the UFC title. In the build-up, Santos mocked the Barbie from Britain, painting her lips crimson at the weigh-in, promising to show the newcomer what real violence felt like. Dakota's reply was silence. She refused even the customary glove touch, her eyes 2 chips of frozen steel as the bell rang. Santos charged, intent on dragging the fight to the mat, but the Brit moved like a mirage. Each time the Brazilian reached for a clinch, a spear of a jab or a whipping front kick cracked her guard. A single takedown attempt briefly succeeded, yet Dakota slipped free as if greased, rising without panic. The crowd began to sense the difference in speed, in precision. Santos bit on every feint, flinched at every twitch. By the close of the first round, red welts blossomed on the Brazilian's ribs from those slicing knees. Dakota's long legs struck like pistons, her timing a metronome of pain. In the second, the end arrived with brutal clarity. A front kick stamped across Santos's face, followed by a knee to the liver that left the veteran folding in agony. Sensing blood, Dakota unleashed elbows and a 2-punch combination that thudded through the hush before the referee leapt in. The $1 million PFL America prize was hers, the belt gleaming as the arena erupted. Then, in a gesture equal parts triumph and taunt, she calmly applied lipstick in the center of the cage, the same shade Santos had worn to mock her. It was not the first time she had humiliated a Brazilian star. Her rise began with a violent debut against Leonora Silvia, an 11-fight veteran who promised to show the newcomer the real world of MMA. From the opening bell, Dakota swarmed forward, clinching and hammering knees into Silvia's midsection. The Brazilian managed a takedown, only to be reversed by a slick single-leg sweep. Back on the feet, Dakota's 1-2 combination snapped Silvia's head back, framing her perfectly for a stinging knee. A final barrage left Silvia crumpled and silent, the referee waving it off as the crowd roared. 3 fights later came Patricia Borras, a street-hardened powerhouse with muscles like sculpted stone and a reputation for fearless brawls. She believed Dakota's tall, lean frame would crumble under pressure. Instead, the Brit met her in the clinch and out-grappled her, reversing arm bars, slipping leg locks, and driving elbows down like a carpenter hammering nails. Borras, smothered and bloodied, could only cover up until the referee intervened. Observers that night began whispering that Dakota was not just a striker, she was evolving into something far more dangerous. Each step of her climb carried the same eerie calm. Reporters searching for emotion found little beyond polite nods. Inside the cage, however, Dakota was merciless. Opponents spoke later of how time seemed to slow around her, how she would study them mid-fight with a small, knowing smile before striking from angles they never saw. Coaches warned their fighters that Dakota's feints felt like hypnosis, pulling them off balance before the real violence began. The Brazilians kept coming, driven by pride and legacy. Each believed she would be the one to end the British-Bulgarian experiment. Each left broken, their nation's aura of dominance cracking a little more. From the beaches of Rio to the gyms of Manaus, fighters watched the tapes with a growing sense of inevitability. This quiet storm from Manchester was rewriting their history. After Patricia Borges fell, the message should have been clear, yet Brazil kept sending its warriors. Each new challenger entered the cage convinced that experience, heart, and the storied tradition of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu would carry the day. Each left convinced of something else entirely. Dakota Ditcheva was a puzzle no one from their homeland could solve. Commentators began to call her the cold front from Manchester, a weather system that swept in without warning and froze opponents where they stood. The nickname fit. She never shouted during walkouts or played to the crowd. Instead, she moved toward the cage with the steady rhythm of a pendulum, eyes fixed straight ahead as if the rest of the world had gone silent. Fans said the air seemed to thicken when she appeared, as though the fight itself already belonged to her. The Brazilian faithful hated the idea, yet their best fighters kept falling. Santos, their last great hope, had been their most decorated contender outside the UFC. When she crumpled beneath Dakota's knees and elbows, a hush spread through the Brazilian MMA community. Clips of the finish played on endless loops across social media. The front kick snapping Santos's head back, the liver shot that folded her like paper, the final elbow that forced the referee's desperate wave. For a country that once defined women's MMA, the sight felt like the end of an era. Even as her legend grew, Dakota revealed almost nothing about herself. Reporters noted that her post-fight interviews were measured and brief. Asked what it felt like to end the Brazilian reign, she simply said, "I fight whoever they put in front of me." There was no gloating, no hint of satisfaction, only that same unshakable composure that unsettled her rivals more than any insult could. Behind the calm was a lifetime of combat. Dakota's mother, Lisa Howarth, had once held a world title in Muay Thai and raised her daughter in the strict discipline of the art. By her teenage years, Dakota had already traveled to Thailand, earning the nickname Dangerous D for the ferocity of her strikes. Coaches from Bangkok to Manchester recall a young fighter obsessed with precision, staying after class to repeat the same kick hundreds of times until the sound was a perfect clap of leather on pad. Transitioning to MMA only sharpened her instincts. Where other strikers struggled to learn grappling defense, Dakota seemed to absorb it like a second language, turning judo sweeps and wrestling scrambles into weapons of her own. That breadth of skill turned each Brazilian encounter into a lesson in frustration. Leonora Silvia discovered it when her takedown attempts turned into a single-leg sweep and a flurry of knees. Patricia Borges found it when her strength meant nothing against Dakota's elbows and balance. Tyla Santos experienced it most brutally, her championship experience erased by a striker who could not be bullied or cornered. By the time the referee raised Dakota's hand in Riyadh, even hardened commentators admitted the obvious. The era of Brazilian dominance in women's MMA was over. Fans across Europe and North America celebrated the upset, but for Dakota, the victory seemed almost routine. She shared a quiet embrace with her mother in the cage, accepted the $1 million check, and left the arena without fanfare. Her opponents described the same uncanny feeling that Dakota was already planning the next strike, the next fight, the next level, long before they had even begun to recover. And that is what makes her terrifying. Power can be matched, speed can be countered, but an opponent who never stops evolving is a nightmare no camp can prepare for. Dakota Ditcheva is not merely a fighter from Britain or Bulgaria. She is a moving target, a shifting riddle of precision and calm violence. Brazil learned that lesson the hard way. The rest of the world is just beginning to understand. If you felt the chill of that journey, imagine standing across from her when the cage door locks. Imagine the quiet before the first strike, the flash of a front kick you never saw, the sudden darkness as the referee pulls her away. That is the reality every opponent now faces. The Brazilian dynasty has fallen. A new queen walks through the smoke and lights, her eyes cold, her fists ready, her legend still growing. The next chapter is coming, and if history is any guide, it will be swift and unforgettable. You've witnessed the rise. Now, join the movement. Share this story with every fight fan who still clings to the old era. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Who should challenge Dakota next? And hit that subscribe button, because when the lights cut out and the crowd falls silent again, you will want to be here to see who dares to stand in front of her next.